If the national debt keeps rising, why hasn't the economy collapsed? We're talking trillions in the red, yet markets are still open, jobs still exist, and life goes on. So is rising debt a ticking time bomb or a misunderstood economic tool? Let's unpack the paradox of public debt. And if you enjoy content that challenges conventional wisdom, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's start with the basics. National debt is the total amount a government owes, built up from years of borrowing more than it collects in taxes. Imagine it like a credit card, except this one is backed by the full power of a country's economy. Now here's where it gets interesting. Rising debt is often framed as dangerous. We're bankrupting our future. But in reality, not all debt is bad. Debt becomes a problem only when the cost of borrowing outweighs the value it creates. If borrowed money builds roads, funds innovation, or supports education, it can pay for itself over time. Just like a business borrowing to expand, governments can borrow to grow. But when debt goes towards short-term political spending or inefficient subsidies, the equation flips. So debt isn't automatically good or bad. It's about what we do with it and what it costs. Let's zoom in. As of 2024, the U.S. national debt is over $34 trillion. That sounds terrifying. Until you realize the U.S. also produces over $27 trillion in GDP annually. The key question isn't the size of the debt, it's the debt-to-GDP ratio, and more importantly, whether we're growing faster than we're borrowing. Now here's the paradox. In times of crisis, governments often should borrow more. During COVID, stimulus packages helped avoid mass unemployment and economic collapse. Debt surged, but so did recovery. Even during wars, recessions, and pandemics, borrowing can stabilize demand and cushion shocks. It's the equivalent of using a fire extinguisher. You don't worry about the cost in the moment. You use it to save the house. But there's another side. If borrowing becomes a habit and interest rates rise, debt service costs balloon. In 2023 alone, the U.S. paid over $600 billion in interest. More than the entire education budget. Think about that. We're spending more to pay interest than to fund schools. And that's where long-term risk builds up. Not in the debt itself, but in who holds the power to collect on it. China, Japan, pension funds, foreign banks, these are real creditors. Confidence matters. So is rising national debt a crisis or an opportunity? Here's the honest answer. It's both. It's a tool. Used wisely, debt can drive progress, innovation, and economic resilience. Used recklessly, it can drag future generations into tighter fiscal space with fewer options. That's why we need long-term thinking, not just political cycles. We need to ask, are we borrowing to build or to delay hard choices? Are we using debt to invest or to patch over problems? And most importantly, are we having honest conversations about debt beyond the fear-mongering headlines? Because like any tool, national debt isn't dangerous in itself, but ignoring how we use it absolutely is. So, what do you think? Is debt something we should fear or something we should manage better? Have you noticed how often governments promise growth will cover it later? Drop a comment. I'd love to hear your take. And if this gave you a clearer lens on a complex issue, hit like and share it with someone who still thinks all debt equals disaster. Because sometimes, the real danger isn't the number, it's how blindly we trust or ignore it. Debt isn't destiny, but how we handle it could decide ours.